Hey guys, so in the last video I went over how you can install Ubuntu Core on the Raspberry Pi. And before you follow this video, you do need to make sure that you have installed Ubuntu Core. So if you need any help doing this, please watch my video for installing this on your Raspberry Pi. But if you're good to go, let's go ahead and jump right in. So during the first time you boot Ubuntu Core, you'll need to get past this screen. Just hit the Enter key, and the first part for setup will be network connections. And if you look on the bottom of the screen, there's an OK option that you can select here. Let's do that. If you have Wi-Fi and you want to go wireless, you need to select the WLAN option. And then of course you'll need to provide things like network name and password. But if you're like me and you want to stick with an Ethernet wired connection, let's select ETH0. So by default, it lets your DHCP server decide what IPs to assign to your Raspberry Pi. But from my previous videos, you may have noticed that I always go with a static IP for relevant reasons. So if you want to do this as well, let's select manual as our IPv4 method. And the rest of the information I'm filling out here, like subnet, is based on how many IP addresses I know that are available in my local network. And if you end up using literally what I'm going with here, you should most likely be fine if you have a classic 192.168.1 based network. For the IP address though, just make sure that you choose an address that's available in your network. Once you're done, just hit save and you'll notice that it'll start applying these changes immediately. So hit enter on the green done button when you see it. And the final step that you'll see during setup is putting in your profile information for Ubuntu. If you're confused, don't be surprised. This is just Ubuntu's way of telling you that you need to create an Ubuntu One account to do anything. And the good thing about this, it's completely free. It's also going to be required if you wanted to do an SSH connection into your Raspberry Pi running Ubuntu Core. So to create an account, just go to login.ubuntu.com, filling out your email, and then select I don't have an Ubuntu One account. You'll have to verify your email, but once you're registered and logged in, you can't just start using Ubuntu Core just yet because we haven't created any SSH keys. So if you try to use it right away, you'll get an error saying no SSH keys found. But don't worry, because we'll do that next, and this can be done on a Mac or a Windows PC, and we'll be going over both processes. So for Mac users, start your terminal and then first run the mkdir command using sudo to make sure that the .sh directory is created. After that, we'll need to give that directory relevant permissions to read and write to it. So you can run the same chmod command that I'm running here to do this. Then let's change the directory with cd and then set it to the one that we just created. Now run the SSH-keygen command with the -t RSA options to generate an SSH key for Ubuntu Core. Now it'll ask you for a file name, and you can use whatever you want, but just keep that in mind. In my case, I'm going with id_Ubuntu Core. So once you run that command, you'll see a key that got generated along with some kind of random art. To make sure that the private and public keys were generated from that last command, let's run the following ls command and be sure that two different files are showing up for you. The top file that you see is my private key, and the bottom one is my public key. So we'll need to copy the entire contents of the public key. Let's jump to the Finder app on our Mac and then navigate to our users folder. And you'll notice that by default, the .sh folder is not going to be showing up because it's hidden. To see it, you'll need to press Command Shift dot or period. Right click the public file and then open it using your favorite text editor. Basically, we need to copy everything that's in this file. And then we'll go back to the Ubuntu One website. Once you're logged in, click on SSH Keys. And inside the public SSH key text area, paste the key that we just copied earlier. Just make sure you don't have any trailing new lines at the end. Then click on the Import SSH key button and you should see it showing up here. If you go back to your Ubuntu Core session on your Raspberry Pi, you can now put in that same email address that you used for your Ubuntu One account. And if it all goes well, your Ubuntu Core setup should be complete and you can actually start using it. Next, if you need to SSH into this using a Mac, just start a terminal session and then run the following SSH command with the -I option so you can point it to your private key. You'll be logged into your Ubuntu Core session that's on your Raspberry Pi. And really the point of doing this is so you don't have to enter your password since Ubuntu uses SSH Keys instead. And now for Windows users. Let's point our browser to putty.org because we need to download PuttyGen. Click on download Putty and then from this page look for PuttyGen and get it downloaded to your machine. While we're on this page, by the way, if you don't already have Putty, you need to grab this as well. It's basically a zip file and you don't need to install anything after you extract it. So once you have PuttyGen open, click on generate and then start moving your mouse inside that blank area. This helps it generate a key with genuine randomness. Once it gets generated, go ahead and save both the public and private keys somewhere on your PC. For the private key, just hit yes when it asks you to save the key without a passphrase. And by the way, if you have a Mac as well and you follow the previous steps to create the SSH key on Mac OS, you can actually just import that same key using conversions and then going to import key. This way, you don't need to generate a new one, but since this key is an open SSH key, we still need to save it in the format that Putty wants. So definitely make sure that you save that private key as a PPK file. And for the public key that's showing up at the top, let's go ahead and copy it because we'll need to add it to our Ubuntu profile. Once you're logged into your Ubuntu One account, click on SSH Keys. And then let's paste our public key here and click on Import SSH Key. Just make sure that it gets added successfully in your SSH Keys list at the end. And if you head back to your Raspberry Pi's Ubuntu Core session, try to enter your email again. And this time it should have no issues moving you forward and you can now start using Ubuntu Core. Next, let's work on getting SSH working for Windows PC users. Start Putty, but before you enter the hostname details and try to connect, we need to first expand SSH under connection and then click on auth. From here, let's provide it the private key that we generated earlier using PuttyGen. Then let's head back to session and then type in our Raspberry Pi's hostname that's running Ubuntu Core. So once you connect, provide it the username from your Ubuntu profile. Notice how it didn't prompt us for the password because it used our SSH keys instead. And you should be connected to your Raspberry Pi over the network using SSH. Again, the Ubuntu team really wants you to create an account. But if you can get past that part and understand how SSH keys work, you can opt into using Ubuntu Core on your Raspberry Pi. Thanks for watching. And for more on Ubuntu Core for the Raspberry Pi, please consider subscribing to this channel.